Hi, I'm Natalie Graham and this is Inside Out for the South East. Now, the Brexit process so far has been a roller coaster ride and it's not over yet, especially for two people from Thanet on opposite sides of the debate. Here's Rachel Royce.
Broadstairs is a seaside town in East Kent. It's in the constituency of South Thanet, which had one of the highest Leave votes in the South East during the referendum.
We were supposed to be leaving the European Union in just 3 days. Now we're not, and Brexit is once again in limbo. The events that have got us to this point have been politically unprecedented.
Things like the prorogation of Parliament, a Saturday sitting of MPs, and lengthy debates, often in angry language, in the House of Commons. And it's claimed up to 1 million people marched outside Parliament. So what of two people from Broadstairs campaigning on opposite sides of the Brexit divide made of what's been going on? Christine Tongue is a Remainer and a Labour Party activist.
So I want to keep the workers' rights. I'd like to keep free movement. I'd like to all the rights and the privileges and the advantages of being in the European Union. I want to keep those.
Tim Vince is a Brexiteer. He's the prospective parliamentary candidate for the Brexit Party for South Thanet.
Fundamentally, the EU does not represent the interests of Britain or South Thanet. It's not possible. Over 45 years, they've received shed loads of money, and it's questionable whether that's been spent properly.
It's the end of August. Boris Johnson has just prorogued Parliament. Christine is so incensed she's campaigning on the streets. Christine got the crowd to meet outside the office of Tory MP Craig McKinley. So, Christine, you organised today?
Yes, people went to a demonstration in Canterbury yesterday and we said we should have something in Broadstairs. And I said Craig McKinley's office would be a good place because Craig is a big Boris Johnson supporter.
October the 31st is looming. Are you hopeful that actions like this could stop Brexit in its tracks?
Yes, I think they will.
Craig decided not to engage with Christine or any of the other demonstrators and left through the chanting crowd.
How are you? You alright?
Alright, I'm not stopping to talk to them.
No, I've got a meeting to go to.
Why won't you speak
Well,
to
they've
them?
decided to come here in their time, and not mine, so they can do what they like, where they like. It's false outrage, it's not.
A week later, Tim Vince set up a meeting with two of his Brexit Party volunteers in a Broadstairs pub. They were discussing campaign tactics in case there's a sudden general election.
It all comes down to the badges, because mine says I'm ready, yours says change politics for good, and then you've got the Brexit Party, so that's it.
By coincidence, inside the pub at the same time as Tim were a group of 80-year-old former school friends. How many of you want to leave the EU? Put your hands up. A show of hands revealed that almost all were Brexiteers. Why do you want to leave the EU?
Because I want to get back to how Britain was.
How does it feel to meet your potential voters who vote you're trying to get?
It's a bit early to say. I am not surprised with what I've heard around this table. The most important thing is the future of our country. I wasn't doing this 6 months ago. If you draw a cross-section of parliamentarians at the moment, they would shout me down as a bigot just for saying I believe in traditional values, which I do.
Tim's boss is Nigel Farage. He stood twice for election to Parliament in South Thanet as a UKIP candidate, and he lost both times. He recently set up the Brexit Party.
And when I met Nigel for the first time, I said that if you wanted to stand again in South Thanet, I would step aside. And he said, oh, you're a lad.
In September, Christine went to the Labour Party conference. The day before I met her, the party voted to back a second referendum rather than back Remain. So was Christine disappointed?
No, I totally trust Jeremy's view. I think that will result in what I want. If everybody else can go along with that, yeah.
But for Christine, one of the best moments at conference came when she heard the news from the Supreme Court about the prorogation of Parliament.
The decision to advise Her Majesty to prorogue Parliament was unlawful.
This unelected Prime Minister should now resign.
We've heard the news this morning that Boris Johnson has been found to be acting unlawfully. So maybe Parliament has to be recalled. He's guilty of everything, particularly treason.
As the Labour Party conference drew to a close, Tim was heading to the Brexit Party's main rally in London. By this time, he was beginning to think that Brexit wasn't going to happen by October the 31st, if at all. But he was excited to see Nigel Farage in full flow to the media.
We will turn that anger into hope.
It does have like an answer for everything. So turning the anger to hope, I haven't heard that one before.
South Planet. If you ever want to hear about that thing.
This man has offered his seat to you should you wish to stand in South
That's very sweet. Isn't that lovely? But you know what?
Are you going to stand?
I haven't decided what I'm going to do.
Do you think the UK will ever leave the EU?
Oh Lord, yes. Absolutely. Yes, he's going to happen.
When?
Now, if I knew that, rather than talking to you, I'd be down at the bookmakers, wouldn't I? I don't know, but I'll tell you something, I don't think it's the 31st of October.
Yeah, well, I got that right there.
Thank you very much.
The future of Brexit is still uncertain, but I thought it was time to bring Christine and Tim together to share their thoughts.
I invited them to a pub near the harbour. Christine's position has always been that she's a Europhile. She loves the freedom of movement that being in the EU allows and believes frictionless borders are good for the economy and cooperation of all sorts.
But I'm really terrified that if we come out of Europe, especially without a deal, that all the good things about being in Europe will be damaged.
Yeah, but who's going to reform Europe? Because there's no democratic accountability, and they're already revving up to create a foreign policy, an army, you know, all the things that alarm the British people.
We do have democracy because we vote in for our MEPs.
Too many layers.
There's lots of things to be reformed, but, you know, it doesn't mean it can't be done.
MPs have voted for the withdrawal bill, but voted down the swift timetable that would have allowed it to become law before the 31st of October. So what does Christine want to happen next?
I would hope there'd be an election, a people's vote to choose between different options with Remain on the cards as well.
And leave on the cards a full clean Brexit on the cards, or not give them that option?
Not a no-deal Brexit. I think the problem with the referendum vote was that there was a huge minority that lost the vote, and they're not being taken into account now. So all those people who wanted to remain are very dissatisfied.
And it was the refusal of the Remainers to accept the result of the referendum that's led us into the quagmire that we're in.
The EU today agreed an extension to Brexit until the 31st of January, allowing the UK to leave sooner if a deal can be agreed. Our relationship with our European neighbours is still out there somewhere on the horizon.